How was your holiday?
Hang on. You're in my phone and you're.
I decided I'm not doing the phone this time. I'm just going straight Mac. Let me close those blinds.
Yeah, what the heck?
Okay, I can let you in.
Okay. All right. Of course.
I don't know. Which computer are you on? Echo.
You hear me?
What computer are you on?
How about now? Can you hear me? Now everything's coming out of like the earpiece in my phone. I can hardly hear.
Okay. Camera looks good.
How about now?
I hear you with echo. I'm just doing the MacBook, and I don't know if you can hear me anymore, but it's a lot easier this way. And, we can do it if we're ever somewhere other than home. We don't have to have like a thing, We have to self-host the studio. I don't want to have to have like a roadie. How is my mom going to listen to the podcast? She doesn't understand. A message. Be right back. Okay. Let's see if the yellow ceiling light. Let's see if that plays. Office back on. Twin it with yellow. I think I kind of like the halo. It's kind of fun. What if we just dim it? Dim it a little. Ooh, glowing orb. Nice. Maybe like a hanging logo there. Maybe a big sticker on the blind that says "damn" when you roll it down. Huh, it's not bad. All right. A lot of symmetry going on there. The whole thing. Okay. New setup. That's easier.
Too simple.
Make the right damn choice, take control today. With thoughts by your side, will lead the way. Simplify your world on your data economy. Join the damn fam, it's time for autonomy.
Anyway, so how was your weekend?
It was pretty busy. We were getting Wildwood condo ready to rent, so got a few hours at the beach, but otherwise mostly running around.
Today was the nice day. Did you get any nice outside time with this weather or no?
Yeah, I mean, it was beautiful. It was just windy, but it was really nice.
Nice.
70 degrees, 72 degrees. In the morning it was cold,
Yeah,
but
it was pretty good here. Today was nice. Got some stuff done. I like fixed up the chicken coop. Stairs were really a hazard. Like they
uh,
were about to fall off, and it's like 5 steps up to the
oh,
to the door. Yeah, so it's like enough that you don't want to fall. So I did that and a couple other things. Basically ready for the kid now. So it's good. It's good.
so do
But
you have chickens now or no?
yeah, I have like 30 chickens.
That
Yeah,
sounds like a lot.
it's a good amount of chickens. There's too many roosters though. They get along, so like I haven't had to get rid of the rooster, but they're kind of just a draw, just empty, just really empty baggage or whatever. So how'd it go with the computer setup at the house?
It didn't happen. What happened? I was trying to get power over Ethernet. Didn't get delivered, so I didn't have that. And without that, I didn't bring really anything with me.
Okay, I thought you were gonna. I thought for the house you were just gonna throw a box there just to have. I was it part of the herd? Was that the plan?
Yeah, I was going to put a herd member there. What I really wanted to have there was another NFS really NAS server that I could use to send ZFS snapshots to. That was the main goal. And then to have a herd member would have also been icing on the cake. But I had no UPS, I had no network, I had nothing. So
So it wasn't PoE that you needed. It was Ethernet over power, right? Isn't that what you wanted to do the through the?
right, right, yeah, I wanted to connect like a storage room where I was going to keep the equipment, the rest of the house. Not a good location for Wi-Fi, and maybe eventually a good place to run cable, but right now I don't want to start drilling into like common areas and stuff. I got a lot of detailed measurements to make before I start drilling holes for cables. So,
Yeah, especially when you're planning on getting it ready to rent, probably not the best move.
yeah, yeah. And my main goal was to upgrade my. I use OpenWRT on the routers. So I wanted to get that upgraded to the latest, and I wanted to get Tailscale updated because what I really want is for only the TVs to go out through my home exit node, so that they look like they're coming from where where the provider thinks they should be. Unfortunately, right now all the traffic is going through my home node, so I gotta get that addressed.
Okay. Do you let the tenants use your Netflix?
No, everybody, brings their own, but I use YouTube TV for, regular broadcast TV. So that's the piece I need the, regular home access node for. Exit.
Nice. So you fully cut the cable at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. I got sick and tired of cable quite a while ago. Feels like
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have cable or like a YouTube even streaming replacement. Mostly just watch YouTube, but I never see ads anymore, and I forget sometimes. I go over to somebody else's house and I turn on YouTube or use it in the car, and I'm like, oh my god, all these ads! Like I forget life is like that. So it is nice. It is nice. It is hard though. Most people don't. You have to give up things. It's not all just sunshine and rainbows.
yeah, we got
Like
too
I don't
many
watch
people coming
sports,
over who
so
want linear TV.
yeah, sports is the big one. I don't watch sports, so it's pretty easy to not need linear TV. Yep. So I've been working on trying some new services, mostly related to getting this podcast going and the business. They were around automating social media posts. So when we post an episode, kind of have a pipeline and not have to like tell people that it's there, and they can be alerted through whatever, way they want to follow. So I looked at a couple. My sister, who works for a marketing agency, was like, oh, you can use Hootsuite. It's pretty easy. Took a look at that, and it had a lot of features. It was pretty nice. Looked like a great piece of software, but the $250 a month was a little steep for what I thought I could, if I sat down with an AI chatbot, I could write something pretty close to automating posts, right? It's a few API calls and a queue. It's not the most complex concept for a piece of software. So did what you normally should do and start to see if there was open source, and there was a couple. What do you think about that $250 price tag, Mike?
Especially just starting out, that sounds very, very steep. It's $250 a month, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know that, like, sure, if like, Facebook or somebody changes their API, I'd need to pay for an update if I, wasn't doing it. But I'm not sure what I'm getting for $250 a month at that point. The UI was pretty slick. But either way, when I started looking at some of the open source stuff, I came into Socioboard and Mixpost. And Mixpost was licensed free open source software. It looked good, but I was going for the home run here. I wanted totally free. One of the measures I like to use is, do you have to click I accept? If you don't, then you're off to, you're probably in a place where you're not going to have a license or get one in the future. So I passed on Mixpost. Then I worked on Socioboard. Have you heard of any of these, Mike?
Yeah, I did a little bit of research when you said you wanted to, go into this, and I got a list of like 4 or 5, and they all look to me like if you could take the best out of everything, it'd be really, really sweet. But otherwise, it was just a challenging, there's no free lunch. Find the least bad option among them in terms of trading off feature, function, breadth across different platforms, and so on and so forth.
Totally. Yeah, there was no silver bullet. This is the best one, and then you kind of scale back the features. Everybody was a little different. And for this, I don't need a lot of features, right? I just want to do basic posts, nothing crazy. So Mixpost was licensed. Then I worked for way too long, probably trying to like tail scaleify Socioboard. It was probably the most challenging one I've tried to do to date, and it was because it had all these different services. So the more services, the complexity scales. It gets a little harder to set it all up to be super easy to deploy. And the weirdest part about that one was that it required public DNS to function at all, basically, which is kind of odd for a self-host app. Not something I've seen. You ever see that, exploring these services, something that requires a fully qualified domain name?
So I thought I heard you say 2 different things. One is needed to be able to get to a public DNS, and so I'm not sure how it knows whether it's on a public DNS or maybe, the server that you're providing it, and needing a FQDN.
So it wasn't that like you could do it in localhost. So I think actually it might have been a really intelligent. I can't tell if it was a very intelligent, intentional design, or just a thing that kind of grew to the way it was. The reason it might be intentional and intelligent is the free, like to run it for free, because it was open source, was, you deploy it, it runs on localhost, and it's all pretty straightforward. There was some domain stuff, and the way Nginx worked, it didn't play with Tailscale. So that made it sound like it would work, but it didn't. And then to run it in like a production environment, you needed to have that DNS, and the Nginx had to handle it. And so if you wanted to access from another computer, it had to be configured for DNS. And you would think, oh, Magic DNS would work for that. You weren't able to set up Nginx through the parameters like that. So then I was like, okay, I have to rewrite this application. I'm Just gonna see if I can pick up another easier rock after that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I did take a stab at editing it because like you couldn't configure the SQL host. That had to be based off of a domain through the engine. But after a while, I was like, I'm done. I'm done. And then I ended up with Postiz.
Ends with IZ, right?
Yeah, Postiz. And that turned out to be there was a little bit of a a getting going stage, but that turned out to be pretty easy to get going eventually. Have you seen it, that one?
I have not looked at any of these so far. I was figuring you're going to pick the best one, get it working perfectly, and then I'd take a look at it.
Nice. Well, I did get it working perfectly. Just need to switch tailnets here to the test net. All right. It's not working at all.
So you think it's just DNS?
There is an override DNS servers. Let me turn that off. AdGuard is 126, which is what that should be set to. Anyway, back to the podcast. Now that I fixed the tailnet, I will now go to Postiz and show you what that looks like so I can get Mike's reaction. Everybody, sorry about the abrupt cut there. We had some technical issues with Riverside FM. It seems to be a problem when screen sharing. Not sure what's going on there, but lost the entire segment where I did the walk of Postiz, and we got Mike's reaction to it. So here it is. So the homepage is basically, once you get logged in, the homepage is basically just a calendar. So during the initial recording, we had done a post, and it had gone out live. And here's what that UI looks like. So this is a retake post, and we can go ahead and post that now. That'll go out, or we can schedule that and add it to the calendar. We can add some media. So it's pretty straightforward here. You can add a comment. Pretty slick, simple to use UI there. And some reposters. Not too sure how to use that. I haven't tested that out yet. But it was pretty simple to hook up the X API. You just got to go get your API key, and then you click Add Channel, and there's this beautiful list of channels, and you pretty much covers all the key basics. You have X, LinkedIn, Reddit, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, YouTube, TikTok. The list is long. Notable absences would be Snapchat and Spotify. Doesn't look like most of these, this category of software supported Snapchat for whatever reason. And no Spotify, but Spotify is not really social media. I mean, it does support comments, so maybe it could be here, but kind of a separate thing to manage the podcast flow. And I think I'm gonna try and learn more about the podcasting 2.0 decentralized stuff to add it on. But it's a good list here, and there's some notable decentralized names here like Mastodon, Nostr. I think there's a few others here, Lemmy, that are decentralized. So that's cool to see. Some self-hosted social media integration. Analytics page is here. It shows you the analytics from all your social posts. It does not support X analytics because the API cost with X is pretty high, and I don't think they want to release that. For whatever reason, you don't get the X analytics here, but from what it looks like all the other analytics work once you get the other channels hooked up. And there's this plug tab here that has some pretty basic automations, like auto repost posts and auto plug posts into some other posts. Some basic automation stuff. And you get some notifications when things go out. You can add some members, webhooks. So that's kind of nice. If there's a post that goes out, you can send out another notification, I guess. Signatures to the bottom of the post. And then the API. Now, the API I think is going to be pretty useful, especially when you look down below and you see this MCP client here. So that looks pretty interesting. Definitely want to take the summary of the podcast generated by Riverside FM and maybe condense it down further into a social media post for the podcast. But MCP, man, everywhere you look, you're tripping over it now. So there's definitely going to be some more MCP stuff coming in the future. I just want to make sure I'm fully skilled up on it and give you guys all the right information. But when you self-host all these services
and you start thinking about having MCPs attached and all your private data, you can start to think about having, very personalized, secure private AIs that, with that level of data aggregation, for a consumer, really, it's pretty hard to get that from one company that's out there. So, exciting times, I think, with that stuff, and more to come for sure. So that's the quick walkthrough. Again, unfortunately, we had a technical error. So we had lost all of this demo and the recording and the reaction from Mike. So you will shortly hear all the reaction I got from Mike, and here you go.
What do you think, Mike?
Sounds good.
Yeah. So we can schedule some posts up. Hopefully that one went out. We can check that it did. Make sure we're not. This is a post from the pod. There it is. But anyway, $100 a month. I think we can put anywhere between $100 and $250 a month on the money we're saving ticker so far with the podcast.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Anybody out there using that? Think about it.
Yeah, paying for just I think you got to figure out what features you actually need, because sometimes the bells and whistles are nice, but you don't really use them. So why pay for them? Yeah, what else? What else is going on? We boosted in this week to the self-hosted podcast. So if you came from the self-hosted podcast, glad to have you. Hope this is entertaining so far. And feel free to comment on our X posts, or we have a Discord. We're not really good about getting all that stuff fully organized yet on the website or all in one place. But you can tell us, like, if you want different content, you want more business, more consumer content, what other, maybe fun with some problems, and we can try and tackle them and go through it on the podcast. So we boosted in. It was fun. I've been a crypto guy for a long time. I haven't really ever used the Lightning Network. I'm kind of ashamed to say, to actually do a transaction. I kind of was in it early and have just been kind of letting it be for the time being. But set up the Bitcoin Lightning wallet. I went through the Podverse thing, which is where the Jupiter Labs from Self-Hosted, they're kind of part of this decentralized podcasting infrastructure, and went through with their recommended tutorial because I wanted to feel it out what the podcasting flow was like. Trying to get the crypto on the Strike app. Haven't used that before. So that I got in, did the KYC, which is know your customer, put all the IDs in, and then it was like 10 days till I could do a transaction or something. And I was like, oh, that's not going to work. So and all mine's in cold storage. I didn't really want to have to deal with that. So I knew somebody who had some Bitcoin. I was like, hey, let me give you some money. Let me buy some off, like a premium, and just send it to this address. And he sent it to me. And then I was able to boost in, and the transaction happened in instantly, which was pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Are you into the crypto world, Mike, or are you stay on the outside?
I am dabbling about as far away as you can get.
Okay.
I have an ETF that uses a synthetic investment in Bitcoin to write covered calls. So it's
very esoteric. Yeah.
as far removed as one could get.
Yeah.
I think, at least in a retail environment.
Yeah, I definitely from the tech environment, it's about as far away as you can get. If we have any, self-hosted fans who are also into Bitcoin, I think they're probably in a very different way. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So the Lightning Network, it's pretty interesting. Basically, is just like all of these transactions. It's kind of a sellout to the original mission of we're going to have everything decentralized and this trust system with cryptography, and it allows a lot of transactions to be settled basically off chain in a channel. So kind of like how banks work now, basically, but it does allow for a lot more transactions per second and makes it actually usable. So it's good. I mean, it's good. You don't necessarily always need to be carrying around everything. You can let some other people do some of the work with the Lightning Network and deposit or whatever, and pretty cool. I was impressed. I've read about it, but I haven't used it, so I'm familiar. And it was cool. And I would love if this podcast could work like that, especially with the ads. I saw this week Brave had done a post about Web3. Did you get a chance to look at that, Mike? What do you think about the Web3 stuff?
That looks super interesting. I have to do a lot more research to fully wrap my mind around it. We had a little discussion about that, trying to envision what a future might look like without understanding the fundamentals. So it's just silliness. I gotta get.
I think that's okay. Most of the audience doesn't understand it. I don't even claim to fully understand it. I mean, I have a good grasp, but your first impressions, what do you You think, you think there's something there? You think it's what, another scam, shitcoin or
Well, right now I didn't see any financial motivation for most of it, right? So, and if the motivation seemed to be, hey, let's figure out a way to do domain names, right? DNS names, a way to identify content on the internet without having to pay a rental fee. That sounds like a pretty interesting proposition. And to the extent that, you know, aside from the financial aspect, it could get pretty interesting, in terms of the technology, right? A lot of times these DDoS attacks come back to flaws in DNS servers, right? People using them to launch these enormous attacks on people. Maybe this certainly enough time and ingenuity going into this stuff that we could have an environment where that's not even possible.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think they're kind of like eyeing up the whole tech stack, right? It's like names and addressing, and with IPFS and some of the other distributed backends, you have some of the hosting of the backend, maybe for static websites. So I think Web3 is kind of an accurate term, and it feels like the world of Tailscale and like VPNs built into built into the OS as like a slim binary, and this world of, hey, we're going to split everything apart into decentralized pockets. It feels like they're going to come together in some beautiful way, but I can't really picture what that beautiful union is of those two technologies just quite yet. But they're both kind of chasing something of the same sort.
Yeah, I think that, Tailscale, I think, has a lot more concrete runway behind it already. And I think we got to see a little bit more where Web3, Brave, where that, really winds up. I don't know that anybody's got a working model yet. If we could see a little bit more of that, that might, make the future a little clearer. Like I said, I'm, I'm building on quicksand right now. I got to fundamentals down.
Sometimes the gut reaction is good, and I think a lot of the audience might be there, right? You don't necessarily need to start at the top. So I think it's good. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. Like you said, I think Tailscale plays in just to today's world and problems. Just it's immediately solving a problem and a friction and a burden that wasn't solved before. So you get the security, the plug and play factor, and that's why Tailscale is like real in the company. There's a company, and they're have a hockey stick growth. It's because there's a real problem today. Web3, I think, is still yearning to solve a problem that most people don't really know they have yet.
Yep, definitely. And on that note, just a quick note for anybody who's kind of maybe new to this type of topic of self-hosting or haven't really tried anything yet. Grab a phone, go out, create a Tailscale account. It's free. Get the Tailscale client running on your phone, then get it running on a laptop, anything, something in your home. Get the laptop and your phone talking. You do RDP, do a ping, do whatever, and then turn your Wi-Fi off on your phone. And when everything keeps working, that means no matter where you take your phone now, if you have internet access, you have access back to that device. Next
Yeah.
step would be whatever that home device is, make it a subnet router. Now you have access to everything in your home. That's kind of the starter. And, from there, the sky's the limit. I mean, the next thing I do is grab the ad guard. You now have ad guard every place you stick that
Kill
client.
the ads. Kill the ads. I think you just missed one initial step. I totally agree. In the starter package, get it on a phone and a device at home or a laptop. I think the next step is set the home device to exit mode. I think that's the easiest second step. And then you go, okay, I open my Netflix, I open this, I open that. I'm secured when I'm out. Nobody's snooping on me. You're at work. Nobody knows you're watching TikToks all day or whatever you're doing. It's just like an extra, and you can get home, and then you can build on start spinning up a service like an ad guard.
Yeah, I'm going to absolutely agree with you. The making your home the exit node, basically almost everybody else is paying for a VPN to get that level of encryption and privacy from, any Wi-Fi, wherever you are. And you're getting it for the investment of, depending on how quickly you can move between 5 and maybe 20 minutes of work.
Yeah, yeah, and then you can explore the whole world. And then for the intermediates, I would say once you have that, like the next step to explore the world is go check out our repo where we have these like push to deploy stuff. Get a DigitalOcean droplet, get an account. It costs it's so easy, and then just pick a Docker Compose droplet And then all you need to do is right from the console in the browser, follow the 3 steps. I mean, most of them have 3 steps. It's, clone the project, get your Tailscale auth key, and then Docker Compose up, and then you can try the service out. And if for the more advanced people, if you have some cool services that you want us to do and you don't want to do it, tell us. We'd love to hear about the different services, love to help provide back to the community. It also gives us more skills to take to our clients, to go there, to have a broader view of the market, to know all of the different pieces of software, the open source projects, and to just stay on top of our game. So I think everybody wins this way.
There it is. We love a challenge. We probably have about 18 people now asking for Socio board, right?
No, you know what? If you want Socio board, no, not yet. Maybe when we go to the next step, I mean, this is far away, so don't get excited. But the next step is, hosting an entire container registry of images. The final destination of the perfect deployment for a mid-tier, even consumer, is going to be a rootless, like ChainGuard type certified, custom built container with Tailscale in it that you're at the maximum level of security and ease. And so that's where we want to be one day. Before I know what to package up and build into a registry, I got to try them all. So that's the plan. So yeah, follow this podcast, please, because we're just trying to get going. I know you're supposed to say that, so I'm going to say it, I guess, even though it's annoying.
U-turn, you were talking about centralized versus distributed. So the idea behind the herd is to not have everything in one place. I recently had my NAS go down, which is running all my services, and that was very unpleasant because some of the family now uses the stuff, and they're very, very efficient, very loud down detector. When things don't work, I hear immediately. So part of the herd concept of having these very inexpensive computers to do these different jobs is out there. But I learned a few things when my NAS went down. My NAS is homebrew, so it's not like a Synology. It's not a pre-configured or pre-packaged setup.
Homebrew meaning you've built it, not like it's some Mac package installed or something like that.
Oh yeah. My apologies. Apologies.
No, it's fine. I just want to make sure it's cleared up.
Yeah. So when the NAS went down, took out a lot of services, and so one of the first services I got to get duplicated and redundancy on, and it's really easy to do, is the ad guard, because when the ad guard's down, then DNS is down. When DNS is down, essentially nothing's going to work. And DNS, it's probably one of the easiest things to provide redundancy for, just because the clients all expect multiple DNS servers and they will try them. So all you have to do is have more than one running and you get redundancy. So that's going to be one of the first herd members going to run definitely ad guard.
Yeah, I think you're like 1 foot in the pond there. Like, you're running 2 instances and you're going to use the instance's own nature to have replica sets of them, but you're not necessarily going to use the herd and the network to make sure there is always one instance at this address. So you are solving a real problem, but I do think you're kind of foot in, foot out on the true herd goal there.
Yeah, I'll agree pretty much on
Okay.
that. I mean, DNS, like I said, inherently domain name service has the built-in redundancy at the client. You can put more than one address in to resolve names, and it'll use as typical behavior is going to round robin between them. So you're not going to be out of luck if one thing goes down. Yeah, the goal ultimately with the herd, like you said, is a more sophisticated ability to take something that doesn't have that redundancy and make it redundant, make it available at an address, a single address that might get kind of effectively moved around.
Right. And I think that's true of like a lot of apps, right? Some apps can work off like a database that's moved around and that you can spin up multiple front ends and load balance. So there's not like one golden rule, I think, for all of them in terms of where to run this and how to sync the state, right? There's many ways you can, at levels at which you can do that. I'm trying to get it all into the Tailscale level where most of the stuff is managed through that because it's so easy. But I don't know what the final resting place is, and honestly, I think they're still figuring it out as well. It will be interesting to see where like the final resting place of Kubernetes type stuff is. Who will be the dominant player on the new internet for the herd? Maybe we'll find out on this show. maybe we'll define a common standard here in public because we're doing it for free and open source, and that's usually what wins, right?
Increasingly becoming obvious who wins. Yep.
Yeah. Speaking of, so I was looking at the self-hosted Discord. I posted a message in and kind of pumped up this podcast again. If you came from there, thank you for coming from the Discord. And I was looking at some of the channels, and it looks like people were talking about running search XNG or searching. And I remember wanting to do that, like aggregate search across all the providers, Bing, Google, blah, 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 blah. I looked at the project and I was like, oh, wow, this would be so easy to package up and deploy in the tailnet. And, I could even point, Google.com to it. So I don't know. That would probably break a lot of stuff, but we could do something, right? It could be nice. And then I thought, I don't even really use Google anymore. I basically do search primarily through AI at this point. I'm like, this service, the only thing I really use Google for now is like restaurants, which nobody else really does. And they already know I'm at the restaurant, basically. Because unless you're like fully committed to like a Graphene OS de-Googled phone, you're still participating in the Google world basically. And so I was like, wow, I think I've really it really felt like a milestone in history. Just like this self-hosted app almost feels outdated, which was kind of cool because it's not that long ago that I wanted it.
Yeah, I'm still on Google. Although I must say more, I think 75 or 80% of my searches now I do in Brave, and most of those responses are whatever Brave's using for AI.
So you're using Brave, but you're still using AI.
Right. By default, if they can give you an AI result in your search, and I'm finding that is, pretty good result.
Pretty damn good. Yeah, it's pretty damn good. Now, how often do you find yourself giving up on the AI, giving up on the Brave results, and then going to Google? How often does that happen?
That is not, like I said, that might be 5, 10. It can't be more than 15% of the time because, it's infrequent. It's not happening that much.
Now, if searching could just modernize the workflow a little bit, and I put in the API keys, and I could do search across the AI. So like hit Bing's, hit Google's, hit Gemini's API, hit Brave's Leo API, hit Grok's, the XGrok API, and get like a compiled AI mesh, and have like the ultimate, probably be a little bit more expensive than I need to do for search every time I Google something. But it's just it really struck me that like we're basically there already. 5% is not much.
Yeah, I got to say, my searching habits skew way too far, I think, from the average user, where I'm usually looking for a command. I'm looking for options I'm looking for some tech thing, whether it's for work, for home. So that skew, I think, makes it very ripe, for the AI. The other thing I'm probably always searching for is, I don't know, if I'm going to buy a pen, I'm like, what's the best pen? Instead of just
I
getting
did
a
do that.
pen.
I did it today. I wanted a chamber vacuum to seal food, like not the one with the bag. It's like a full chamber, creates a vacuum, and you lose less to freezer basically. And yeah, I went to the AI and it hooked it up. So yeah, just an interesting thing. I know it's not really self-hosted. It's kind of the opposite of self-hosted, but it just felt important that it is real now, that I don't even really want to self-host it just because it's so much better. That is the reality sometimes, right? Sometimes the best product on the market is not open source. But for the common stuff, I think we can always find the thing. So yeah, next up, I think is maybe some pipelining for just get like an AI summary of the podcast. We use Riverside FM. It already gives me one. So maybe I can use that summary, get it into an AI to say, hey, condense this even further for me into, a social media post promoting the podcast, and then have those go up automatically when this post hits Spotify or something. So that'll be one of the next things. Self-host the pipeline. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. Figure that out, but that's my next target. I think we still owe the audience TeslaMate. I looked into it again. It's pretty easy to do. The only problem that makes it not normal is you have to go get your API key, which is true for Postiz, right? You have to go into every website and you got to go to X and you got to set up Sometimes you set up a developer account and you got to go and get the API key and then configure it for every single service that you want to hook up or channel, they call it in Postiz. Well, that's true for the Tesla app. And so you have to download another thing. So I just have to make a little bit more expanded directions, and I don't want to break my current Tesla setup with the API. So I don't have like a test environment to do the script on.
I might be able to spin a car off and try something. So the issue is really just the credentials you need to get to the back end. That's going to be the source of the data. The last time you talked about it, I thought you said that it was the actual plumbing between the components within the container and the tailscale sidecar.
That is a factor, and I didn't fully get over that factor. But having dealt with it more and more now, like I kind of can gauge. I have a pretty good gauge on how much hell I'm in for trying to refactor the app. Socioboard is currently the standard, and I can't tell if they did it on purpose or to force you to the SaaS product, or if it was just some esoteric design that grew over time and became the way it was. But either way, I think I can do the Tesla one. So we owe the audience that still. We'll figure it out. We'll get it done for you.
What's your goal with the Tesla one? Are you trying to get everything on port 80, or because right now by default you got 2 ports, I think it's 3000 for like a summary page and 4000 for the detailed Grafana dashboards.
The optimal DAM deployment is it comes up with one sidecar, and you have SSL and TLS enabled in your tailnet. The SIR file's configured for it. It comes up, and the service is available on 443 with TLS, assert, and the whole thing. That's the goal. Now, when there's 2 UIs, what do? Right? Who gets the port? Which is the case with this. So I would probably pick the service you want to use the most, which to me is the graph. Although I think to you it's the other one. Oh, and then the other one would just have to get another port. That's the only way. Or you do 2 containers, and then you set them up so there's 2 nodes in your tailnet, both on 443, and then you network them together like that. But I don't think everybody wants 400 nodes on their tailnet for one application. So the optimal is 1.
Yeah, and so there's no easy way to do URL mapping where, I don't know, one's at /console, the other one's /dashboard or something.
It ranges from put it in the .env file and Bob's your uncle. You put localhost in because they share the host network stack through the Tailscale sidecar. Or the next option is, the next grade down in difficulty is, okay, it's configured like per service, not in an env file. You have to kind of find like the configuration file for it. And then the final step is they haven't considered it all. The whole application's built really brittly, and there's domains throughout the code that you have to go change now. Sometimes a find and replace can do it, but then it's like, how do we give that to the viewers? Because then it's like I've modified the source code of the application, and now I have to build it into a Docker container and host a registry so that the audience can download the container that I've modified. So the goal is, it's easy if you can do it in a config file, and it becomes impractical for our current mode of operation if you have to edit the source code.
Yep. Okay.
So yeah. And then, Socioboard took it a step. They found a new level of suffering where you have a reverse proxy that's doing all of this crazy domain stuff, and it's in the code. And they assume that the host has DNS configured correctly and that everything. It's so very rigid around an FQDN, basically. Yep. So yeah, a whole variety of stuff out there. The stuff we have up is easy, and we're adding to it. All right. So your next venture is the herd. Press on.
Yeah, I'm making slow progress. A lot of little pieces from Kickstarter file to get them built. Initial build quickly, and then Ansible to keep them all essentially identical. And another learning from the NAS going bad. I do not remember. I'm a big fan of the Fedora, Red Hat, previously CentOS. Now I use Rocky Linux. I never remember the log not being persistent across boots or failures, but apparently in Rocky Linux 9, it now by default is not persistent. So one of the Ansible scripts is to make the log persistent. So a lot of little tiny things like that, kind of crazy home environment and crazy desire to try and manage everything. So turning on things like SNMP, LLDP, so that's simple network management protocol, the link layer discovery protocol that makes it figure out easy to, kind of build maps and some network management tools to, hopefully do some work for me.
Yeah, it's funny. I look for some things too in the containers, which I'm actually shocked at how many of them support, which is Prometheus. So a lot of the ones that have an API, they have on port 9090. You can just hook your Prometheus up internal in the container to see all the API usage. So if you want to, graph all out how much your services are being used, so you maybe know what to scale. A lot of them support that right out of the box, which is surprisingly nice. But I think it is a little telling here, just on the generation gap between the two of us on which monitoring tools we're excited to see supported in the thing. Not that I think yours are probably more tried and true.
Well, that's kind of like I also have that network perspective, right? I'm looking at it from a networking standpoint. You're looking at it more from an application and performance standpoint, performance specifically the application. Whereas I'd be, right? You tell me something's not working well, I'm going to say, oh, maybe, are you really getting close to a gig on that gigabit port? You might look at it and say, well, I mean, how many API requests a second are you, prospecting?
Yeah, but I think you really, and that's where Tailscale comes in, because it's both. It's like took our two worlds and just forced them together into one layer that you can just abstract it all away. So yeah, but it is fun seeing that little perspective come in. That's it's good. I think the audience will take that. Cool. What else? Have made almost no progress with my dodecahedron baby buddy NFC tag thing. I've been too busy fixing up chicken coops and building nurseries and real stuff to get to do the unnecessary stuff that is fun for this show. But the plans are there. It's in the back of my mind, which usually means it goes better when I go to sit down and do it. So I still have a month to get that done, so we can actually use it.
Yeah, you gave me 4 tags to try some things with. Bad news, as far as I can tell, 2 of them got thrown away. They look like
They look like garbage.
they look like big hole punch pieces of paper.
What kind of paper are you hole punching, Mike?
Well, I mean, if it was big, like it was a little kid's like
I
giant
just
hole
picture
punch
you
thing.
with like a
Well, they're quarter size, right? So I
yeah.
think 2 got chucked. But good news, one of them is in place and not yet, doesn't have a home automation written yet, but it's going to toggle my front porch lights. But it's in place behind the switch plate. So it's taped in there, ready to go. And the other one also needs to have the automation written, but it is taped into my air conditioning vent, which I bought instead of getting the throwaway filters. I bought a permanent, semi-permanent filter, which you're supposed to be able to wash about 40 times. So I'm going to keep track of how many times I washed it with that one. So
That's a good one. That's
2
a good one.
practical uses for the NFC.
Nice. I think I'm going to borrow a little bit of yours for the nursery. 2 things. One, I got this awesome Philips Hue light. It was definitely overpriced, but it's really cool. It's like a sphere thing. It's called the Hue Go, and it's got the colors. So you're supposed to do red, apparently, when you're feeding. I don't know. That's what I'm told. But the cool part about this thing is it has a built-in battery. So you can like unplug it, but more importantly, like if the power goes out, I'll still have like this like pretty functional bright light that keeps working for like a good amount of time. So that was kind of cool. And then on top of that, I'm going to steal your thing with the NFC tag, and right by the doorway to the room, I'm going to put it in there for like scene setting. Like you can tap and do, I might have to use a button because getting the phone out in this one situation is a little much. So maybe a button, use one of those Zigbee buttons with a coin cell battery in it to just set the scene, like nighttime, feeding time, whatever. And I know that one will be used if I put a button there for sure. So yeah, those are fun, easy ones.
Oh, quick feedback too on the functionality of scanning those. So what I noticed with Android is if the Android's unlocked and you scan, it'll run the automation, which is kind of nice, very convenient. So far with Apple iOS, when you scan the NFC tag, you have to be unlocked. You scan, it brings up the app and you have to kind of hit OK, or you have to press a button. It doesn't do the action until you confirm it. So an extra step. So far, I haven't figured out how to get around for.
Don't know that I faced that issue because I think Marcella uses the one when she goes to bed.
Oh, and it just does it?
I think so. but maybe I had set it up in HomeKit. It's been so long since I've done it. I don't really remember. I might have had to configure. Maybe that's why I told you have to configure every phone. Because I think I had to configure the phone through HomeKit or something to do a thing when it reads this tag. So the
Oh,
automation was kind of out. Might have been when I did it. The automation might have been outsourced to her phone.
okay.
Where the way you want it to work and the way it should work is you tap. The phone shouldn't even have to be unlocked. I mean, I don't know how much battery it would cost to run NFC all day, but I have this Chinese OnePlus and OnePlus 13, and God, the battery lasts forever.
I don't think the unlock to scan is so much battery security, right? Because if I happen to
Yeah,
walk through a store close to a point of sale machine, I don't want I don't want that hitting my Visa.
yeah. I mean, I think that's a valid take, but the phone could be able to just be like read, like when it's locked in a read state. But then I guess it could do an action. But yeah, what's the action it's gonna do? Is it gonna
Right.
open
If it reads
links?
it,
Right.
things in
If I
action.
could, yeah, yeah, you're right.
Yes.
If I can bump into you and your phone opens a link, that's pretty bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for now, I think we want that security there.
Yeah, you're right. Totally good point on that one. So fun. The NFC tags are coming along. I think by the end of this, we will actually have some crazy stuff going.
Yeah, I gotta buy 100 pack and give you the 4 you gave me back.
I think you can keep the 4. I got another. I don't know. What is this? 50 pieces. I got a whole baggie of them. But to be fair, some of mine have also ended up in the trash. Yeah, that is a problem with them. The stickers, they don't get thrown in the trash, but then the stickers are like, you really want to. I don't know. The stickers are kind of pain in the ass too.
You know what? I immediately picture the sticker's going to go on something, and then somebody's going to come out with a scraper and damage whatever it's stuck to, right?
Yeah.
And you know who the bad guy is going to be.
Oh yeah. For sure. Stickers in very limited applications. It has to be like, something very
you don't care about.
specific. Yeah. Maybe the filter. No, but then you're throwing out your air tag
Yeah, the
every
filter,
time.
I just stuck it up there. I've been using Scotch tape.
Yeah.
It's inside the frame of the filter, that holds the filter, so you can't see it.
I use Elmer's glue because then if I mess up where I put it, like, Scotch tape is equally as non-damaging. But yeah. And you finally upgraded to a Mac. We see that the video here, the angle is much more flattering. How does it feel to be a Mac guy now?
Well, I am certainly not a Mac guy. I am very much a Mac noob. But we've talked about this a little bit. The integration to Linux and POSIX-based systems has been and continues to be trying, right? Just simple things like file level security on network file system exports or shares. I'm struggling. I'm going to make it work, right? You sold me on basically build quality, battery life, screen quality, and I think there was a fourth thing. So far, it's been worth it, and I just got to figure out how to make this work in an environment. But basically, I've fallen behind on Windows. Never knew Mac. Know Linux pretty good. There's a lot of similarity with the Mac, but there's a lot of differences.
Yeah, it does help to have a Synology and just have it run AFP, and then boop, you're connected. So that is nice. You're kind of crossing two worlds here, and so you're finding a little friction there. But those 3 things I sold you on are just straight up facts. The build quality is good. I also have fallen in love with the trackpad and just believe it's the best trackpad there. That's kind of a little bit more in the weeds.
Yeah, I really hadn't been able to use a trackpad in 10 or 15 years at least. So I am able to use this, and I got to learn more of the shortcuts and the, kind of cool things to do. But the fact that I can, get anything done at all with it is kind of impressive to me.
Yeah, I'm refusing to have Windows 11 enter my life. Between the snapshot recall feature, saw another post today that kind of had me chuckle. It was that the start button is like a React Native. I don't know if this is true or not, but it's a React Native application, and every time you click it, like the CPU spikes on it. So if there's just like 400 pounds of baggage, and I don't need most of it, and Apple's build quality is better, and they're kind of more of a privacy first company generally. Yeah, they have won me over. I don't know. I need to have a system that I'm not working on, that I'm living on. Like, I don't want to have like a Linux distro that I'm constantly messing with. I just want something that I need something that somebody else solved.
Come on
I
now.
don't.
The Windows I agree box, when you check that, I bet there's probably only 30, 40, 50,000 words behind that.
Yeah, there was a great art exhibit about that. I'll cut that in after the show, where they in New York, they printed out all of the terms of service for all the different services, and just like the full length of it is was pretty crazy. Yeah, I mean, you ever see the South Park episode where they like he signs the terms of agreement and like they're chasing him the whole episode,
No,
trying to
I'm gonna
kill
have to
him?
go look it up though.
Yeah, I forget exactly what they want to do. I think they either like enslaved Cartman or something in the terms. I mean, these are legally binding contracts, people. So when we all click it, we're all guilty. There's too many times in your life where you don't have tons of hours to go find or build some free open source replacement. We do it, but the goal is to do it as little as possible. That's how you know you're managing your digital assets correctly, when you have not signed your soul to Satan. That's
All right, I'm gonna leave off on a lighter note. So since you brought up South Park, I had back surgery a number of years ago, and I just had to stay overnight, but it was pretty painful. It was quite painful actually. South Park came on, and I'll have to think about which episode, but I was laughing so hard that I was crying from the pain. And there was a guy on the other side of the curtain in the next bed, and he was wondering what was going on. And I was laughing so hard that I couldn't even tell him like what to put on.
yeah, man. I haven't watched some of the new ones, but God, that show is great. That show is great. But I think this was a good episode. I think we covered a lot of stuff. I think we did it again. We're on like a 2-week cadence right now. We were hoping to do a 1-week cadence. I think life and everything is pretty hard to like actually find enough time to do this stuff, to come to the audience and talk intelligently about it. So I think for now we're probably going to stay on a 2-week cadence.
Yeah,
Maybe they'll
more reasonable, because otherwise we don't have enough time to actually, try things out and see what's going on.
Yeah,
When your whole network goes down and you got to spend a week recovering and things like that, really puts a drag on the weekly pace.
totally. So we're gonna stick to 2 weeks for now. Maybe it might be a bonus episode. I think the next episode we'll probably have a guest on, talk about some local AI stuff possibly, and
Oh, nice. Anybody I know?
yeah,
Cool.
somebody, yeah. Cool. So I think that was a good episode.